What's up? This your man Umar Lee, and in this Game of Thrones season 7 preview episode, I want to discuss the religion of the Lord of Light and the High Priestesses, uh, Kinvara and Essos, and Melisandre, the Red Priestess, who we know very well since season 2 and in the books. Let me first say that there's two aspects that are interesting in this. Tyrion struck an alliance with the religion of the Lord of Light, or Hadyar, I think you pronounce it, last season, just as his sister, his arch enemy, struck a deal with the Faith Militant in King's Landing. The Faith of the Seven. Lord of Light is one God, and of course, the High Sparrow represented the Faith of the Seven. Monotheism versus polytheism. Now, arch enemies, but they thought alike. And of course, this is not new. There are many regimes and many monarchies throughout history who have sought the sanction of religion when they've been unpopular. One we could think of right now is the government of Saudi Arabia, where the Saud family aligned with the forces of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, the founder of what they call now as Salafism, a Da'wat al-Salafiyya, or in a pejorative manner referred to as Wahhabi, which ISIS and Al-Qaeda and many other groups follow this methodological teachings of Islam. Salafiyya literally means a Da'wat al-Salafiyya, calling to the ways of the early generations of Muslims, in this case meaning the first three, the Sahaba, the Tabi'een, and the Tabi'een. So that's the case of the side. But many European kings throughout the centuries sought their legitimacy from the Catholic Church. And same is true in Latin America, where Catholicism has historically been very an integral part of the culture. Less so now. It's still the case, but less so with the rapid rise of evangelical Protestantism in Latin America. So Cersei sought the grassroots support of the Faith Militant, which she knew could bring in the proletariat, the working class. But it backfired on her. Stannis Baratheon, due to his wife, brought in Melisandre, converted to the Lord of Light. They burn heretics at the stake, burn their own daughter at the stake. Religious extremism causes people to do crazy things, in this case, killing your children. Of course, this is not unheard of in the real world. We look at the Jim Jones cult, where hundreds of Americans, including many, many children, died in Jonestown, Guyana. There's some great documentaries on the Jonestown Massacre. But there have been many, many other examples of religion driving family members to sacrifice their own children. Didn't work for Stannis Baratheon. Didn't work for Cersei Lannister. She ended up a prisoner, the Walk of Shame. We know the whole history. Daenerys Targaryen's whole thing has not been religion. It's her birthright, her destiny to rule, which is another video I've talked about is problematic as well. But Tyrion sought the priestesses of the Lord of Light. Now, of course, they were already on board and were teaching that Daenerys was Azor Ahai. Tyrion encountered this on the road, and we saw in other places in the show. And when Kinvara, the great high priestess, like the Grand Mufti or the Chief Rabbi or the Pope or the Billy Graham of the Lord of Light faith, met with Tyrion and Lord Varys and wanted to reveal what was said to Lord Varys when he had his horrific I don't know, when he became a eunuch. I don't know the proper word for it. Is it castration? Or no, right? That's just when he, anyway. The pillar of the stones, as Miss Sandy said. You can compare this religion when they say the ruler must be worshipped. We will burn and purify. This is the language of Kinvara. This is the language of Melisandre. Who does that remind you of today? Reminds you of Daesh, of ISIS, and the similar groups before them, Al-Qaeda, Taliban, etc. That religious violence is not just violence, but it's purifying the society. So when ISIS is killing Muslims, they're seeking to kill the deviants, the apostates, this is according to them, obviously, and purify the Muslim Ummah. And that anyone that does not subscribe to their particular version of the faith should perish. Did ISIS invent this? No. I mentioned Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab before. He did the same thing. Slaughtered Sufis, slaughtered Shia, burnt their shrines. He did many things. And there's been numerous similar groups arise in the 1400-year history of Islam. ISIS is not the first. Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab wasn't the first. Groups such as just emerged, the Khawarij and others emerged in the early generations of Islam. But what about Christianity? Anyone familiar with the Inquisition in Spain? Those without a sufficiently correct Catholic faith were burned and killed. Jews had two choices. 3, convert, leave, or die. And then the conversos, those who they believe had converted but secretly were practicing Judaism, were murdered. Many of them murdered them as well. Muslims, same thing. Convert, leave, or die. And of course, there were many acts of religious purification in Europe throughout the centuries, where you either adhered to the religious teachings of the state or of the church, or you died. Cat is giving me a little, not quite sure what the cat is doing right now, but you know, cats are cats. So you can compare Melisandre and Kinvara to ISIS today, because there are no Christian groups controlling tracts of land, seeking to expand their state. This was in centuries past. There are no Jewish groups like this. You have the state of Israel. It's a secular, democratic state. You have obviously not a perfect state. There are no perfect states, and the pursuance of human rights is an issue in every state. You have Buddhist extremists in Myanmar, Burma, targeting minorities like the Rohingya. But it's not a global movement. The global religious movement that we have today that is wreaking havoc on humanity is the Islamist movement rooted in the teachings of Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab and Sayyid Qutb and Hassan al-Banna and others. It's a real ideology. Thousands of books written by adherents of this ideology. And it's a threat to everyone, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. The faith of the Lord of Light is very similar to the problem of ISIS. You accept ISIS, or they seek to kill you. You accept the Lord of Light, or they seek to burn you, even children. And now, in alliance of Daenerys Targaryen, dragons are in play, which can burn humans by the thousands. WMDs of Westeros. So just as if we're going to do a comparison, I would compare the High Sparrow to the Catholic Church. Many similarities in the way he dressed, in the thinking that bathing was somehow sinful and finery was sinful. These are some ideas unique to Christendom. Maybe not solely unique, but definitely within the Catholic tradition of and the European tradition of understanding religion that don't necessarily exist in Judaism or Islam or some of the Eastern faiths. And so I think a combination of George R. R. Martin and the HBO writers and creators who are now on their own because we're past the books, I think ISIS may play a role in the development of the characters of Kinvara, and even though we may not see her again, just like we don't see Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the self-proclaimed Khalifa of ISIS, but we see Lady Melisandre. So I think that's something we need to consider. The connection between the two. I have no idea what the cat is doing. Please forgive me. And just as ISIS and all religious extremists are a threat to civility and humanity and justice in this world, I believe the Lord of Light, the Faith Militant, and others are a threat in Game of Thrones and in Westeros. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this plays out in Season 7 and Season 8. Thank you.